Okay. My name's Victoria Huwyler, and I come from Zambia. Although I do have a Swiss-German surname, I am Zambian. And you'll have to excuse my Southern African accent because Zambia is part of the Southern African region. And not that we have a bad accent, we articulate and we speak well, but it is a Southern African accent. So bear with my slightly South African accent. I've chosen this wonderful book. It's called Towards a Solar Civilization. And the reason I've chosen this book, it's simple, it's easy. For me, it's almost the summary of the teaching. If you read this book, I promise you, you don't have to read any more. It's a book by Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov, and it's called Towards a Solar Civilization. It's also part of the Eastfor collection and editions Prosveta. So if anyone is interested in the book, you can contact Prosveta, just Google Prosveta, and there's a lot of books that come, but I highly recommend this book. And the reason I love this book, it talks about the solar civilization, a new civilization that is to come, a new religion that unites the whole world, coming from Africa with all the problems we have in Africa, the racial problems, the issues of different tribes. There's now one religion that will finally unite the whole world, and this book talks about it, and that's why I love it. And also, one of the biggest reasons I've chosen this book is the master, for me, Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov. He explains the most philosophical, the most mystical, the most complex issues in the most simplest way. There's no other lecturer, teacher, philosopher, spiritual leader that speaks with such simple terms. He takes the most mystical, philosophical, complex. I've read Rudolf Steiner, I've read Madame Blavatsky, I've read other spiritual teachings, but this one is simple. He talks to us like he's talking to children. We just, all of us, a bunch of children. He makes these mysteries so simple. And I'll give you an example how lovely this book is, how easy it is to read. Even a fool can read it. You don't need education, you don't need to go to university, you don't have to go to the best schools, you just have to have an open heart, a loving heart. Let's start. And as you read this book, it's like all the master's books, there's this beautiful voice. It's a voice that's always talking to you. And promise you, just take these books and throw them everywhere, distribute them wherever you find a place to distribute these books, because there is a voice that's talking all the time. And I remember it was 1975 when I first read one of these books, and I think it was a brochure called Reincarnation. And there was this voice talking to me. At some point, I could hold the book like this, and the voice was talking to me. So we all have to trust that. Wherever these books are found, there's this beautiful voice talking to you. And then finally, I had to ask, but who's this person talking to me? And someone showed me the picture of Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov, and that's Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov. Just the purity of the person, the voice, so simple, like a child talking to you, opens every single heart and unites the whole world. Now here we go. Let me show you how simple, how easy it is, how joyous, how loving this book is.
Words from within. Welcome to Omraam World.
Now listen to this beautiful voice. Now you'll hear the voice. As I read, you'll hear this voice behind me speaking. As soon as the sun gets up, he pours forth his light, the warmth and his life. And it is that light, the warmth and life, that encourages men and women to get up and go to work. Some go off to their offices, some to factories or to fields. Others open up their shops and stores. The children go off to school, and the streets are filled with sounds of voices and cars. In the evening, when the sun goes down, people close their shops and offices and go home. And before too long, it is time for bed. The daily rhythm of human life is patterned on the rhythms of the sun, the sun's movements. And it is the sun, too, who is the origin of all culture and civilization. It is the sun that's the origin of all culture and civilization. People sometimes wonder who was the first person to teach men the art of writing, agriculture, and the use of fire and certain tools. Various names are put forward, but in reality it was no man but the sun who was at the origin of these discoveries. You will perhaps say that that is all nonsense, that the sun is not an intelligent being, and that he's neither a brain nor a mouth with which to speak, according to you. Then ignorant human beings have a monopoly on intelligence. The one being to whom all life on earth owes its existence is not intelligent? And yet, if you just reflect for a moment, you will see that the sun was the first to bring science to mankind. How? Well, it's very simple. It is thanks to the light of the sun that we can see objects, shapes, contrasts, colors, and distances. It is thanks to that light we are able to see where we are and observe what goes on around us, to compare and to calculate. Without light, science simply cannot exist. What can anyone see in the dark? Nothing at all. And then it goes on in this simple style, so warm, so joyous, so easy. He then gets into more abstract things. And lastly, it is also the sun who was at the origin of art, simply because he gives life. Life is what causes a being to move, to act and express himself. And so you have the beginning of dance, song, painting and sculpture. Art begins with life. Look at children. They are always on the move, shouting and screaming and scribbling, and their shouts are the beginning of music. Their scribbles are the beginning of painting. Their sandcastles are the beginning of sculpture. The little houses they make are the beginning of architecture. And all their little gestures and movements are the beginning of dance. Yes, indeed, all art begins with life, and life comes from the sun. Can you see how simple these mysteries are? How simple he makes it. So you see, the sun gives light, warmth and life, and hence he's the father of science, of religion and art. And yet he's the last one to be loved and respected by human beings. But that is where I'm different. I'm for the sun. So am I. I'm calling there for the rehabilitation of the sun. It makes me indignant to see how people treat him. They raise monuments to all kinds of impostors and never to the sun. And yet he is the first cause, the origin of everything. I'm going to skip now because I want you to read this book. See how simple it is. Everyone can understand. It doesn't take a genius, and yet the greatest mysteries are explained in this simplicity. I'm jumping, of course. I knew a man whose overriding passion was to find gold. He had all kinds of books about hidden treasures and magical practices which were supposed to help him find it. For quite a while I left him to it and said nothing. And then, of course, he didn't find anything. And then one day I asked him why he persisted in carrying on with the chambermaid instead of trying to win the friendship and the courtship of the lady of the house. He was very indignant and declared that he was an honourable married man and wasn't carrying on an affair with anyone. I replied, yes, of course, I know you're a faithful husband, but I can see that you're still trying to seduce the maid. Of course, he didn't understand. So I explained, you see, you're always looking for gold, but gold is only the servant. The lady of the house is the sunlight, which when condensed in the depths of the earth becomes gold. And when the lady of the house sees that instead of trying to charm her and become a friend, you pursue the maid, she's offended and closes her doors to you. From now on, go straight to the lady of the house, to sunlight. Try to love her, to understand her, to attract all the blessings and favors. And someday, sooner or later, you will receive gold. Why not go straight to the top? If you are the king's friends, all his subjects will respect you. But if you're a friend of the doorman, you'll never get any further than the doorman. No one else will bother with you. He was astounded. I understand, he said, but I doubt it, because he's still flirting with the chambermaid. I love that simple style. It's funny, you laugh, and yet in all of it, if you follow the master's teaching, which he goes on to explain, if you follow the master's teaching, which is getting up early in the morning, it's praying, it's fasting, it's meditating to the sunrise. In the sun, we see the Trinity. We see the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. The Christ is in the sun. We go to church every day for the Christ, but it's the sun who's the center of the Christ. We want to meet the Christ. We want to talk to the Christ. Get up in the morning. Do your early morning meditations. Do your prayers. Breathe in the sun's light, and in it you find the Christ. That's where you can talk directly to the Christ. Don't waste your time with churches. Go to church, go to temples, but in reality the greatest temple is the temple of nature. The greatest source of inspiration is the sun, and that's what the master gets to. I'll go a little bit further. I'm going to stop there and take you a little bit further because I want you to read this book for yourself. For me, as I've already said, the sun's rays are like so many little wagons filled with food, and this food consists of elements and solar energy to which we can all help ourselves to our heart's content if you want to grow and develop on the physical and psychic levels. Everything that man needs is contained in the light of the sun. What an immense field for scientific exploration. I'm going to go right to the end. Then he talks about Surya Yoga, and why I love this part where he talks about Surya Yoga. You'll see how the master Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov brings all religions. It doesn't matter if you're Hindu, it doesn't matter if you're Buddhist, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew, it doesn't matter what religion you belong to, what philosophy, and even if you are atheist, the master welcomes you all. In this chapter where he talks about Surya Yoga, which I'm not going to, I'll just read a little bit for you to just see how he brings in all kinds of yogas. So it doesn't matter what religion you are, and it doesn't matter whether you're atheists. He talks to us about these different yogas. For those who have a taste for study, reflection, intellectual activity, they have Jnani Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, which is a way to reach God through deep thought. Some people are drawn neither to philosophy nor mysticism, but they have great willpower and energy and dedication. They want to work for others. For them, there's Karma Yoga, the yoga of good works, of duties to be accomplished with no exception of reward or payment. Karma Yoga is the yoga of disinterested service. And then there's Raja Yoga. By means of concentration, self-control, they too can reach the eternal Father. And then there's Kriya Yoga, which is the yoga of light. It consists in thinking of light, in getting to know and understand it, in surrounding myself with colors. I'm skipping. And then there's Hatha Yoga, which is good for those who have a taste for physical exercise and like to assume all kinds of postures, or asanas as they call them. And then he talks about all the different Ani Yoga, which is the yoga of fire, Sabda Yoga, which is the yoga of the word and mantras. But above all this, the master says, but now I want to talk to you about a form of yoga that surpasses all others, the yoga of the sun. In the past, this form of yoga has been practiced by many peoples and civilizations, but in our day it has fallen into disuse, particularly in the West. The Sanskrit word for sun is Surya Yoga, which is why I call it Surya Yoga, and it's my favorite because it combines and sums up all the other yogas. Yes, why not combine all the different kinds of yogas? And he says basically with Surya Yoga, he concentrates on his love. So we put it all together. We have, with Surya Yoga, on the contrary, he always tries to become a creator of the new life. That is Sabda Yoga. Finally, he concentrates his love and attention to the sun. He tries to maintain contact with it at every moment. He considered it as the open door to heaven, the manifestation of the Christ, God's representative. That is Surya Yoga. The disciple who practices Surya Yoga rejects none of the others, quite the contrary, and as a result, he becomes a whole being and lives in inner plenitude. How simple. How easy, so sophisticated, so mystical, so philosophical, and yet explained that an idiot like myself, can understand it. And finally, I'll summarize. You must read the book. It's just too beautiful and so simply written. And at the end, the reason I love this book more than anything else, at the end, the master talks about how we all unite, whether we Christians, whether we Buddhists, whether we atheists. I'll just read this part here. Christians have a tendency to see Christ in a particular place, usually, of course, in Palestine, since that is where Jesus lived. But if he is truly the resurrection of life, he dwells not in Palestine, but in the sun. Of course, Christ is everywhere in nature, but as far as we're concerned, he's in the sun. And that is why, if you can get into the habit of contemplating the sun in the morning, remembering that it is Christ, who is there before your eyes. And if you link with him and love him, your whole being will throb and vibrate in harmony with the cosmic light that shines in condensed form through the sun. Of course, Christ is far greater than the sun. He's the Son of God, the second person of the Trinity, manifesting not through our sun alone, but through all the innumerable suns that exist in the cosmos. Many of them are far bigger and more brilliant than ours. This is why when I talk of Christ, I am not talking about Jesus, but about the cosmic principle that knows no beginning and no end. Jesus was a man who lived in Palestine 2,000 years ago, who was so pure, so noble, and so highly evolved that when he was 30 years old, he received the Holy Spirit. At the same time, the Spirit of the Christ. That is why he's called Jesus Christ. But Christ can be born in the hearts and souls of all human beings. It was Christ who manifested himself in office. Moses, Zarathustra, Buddha, and all the great initiates of all lands and all ages. There's only one Jesus, but there are, or there can be, thousands of Christs. Jesus will always be a unique figure. He's head of the Christian religion, just as Buddha is head of Buddhism, and Muhammad the head of the Muslim religion. But Christ is the head of the whole of humanity, even the whole universe, not the head of one religion, but all religions. It was Christ who inspired religion, and this is why men must get rid of all racial or sectarian overtones in their religions. Even Christianity is still a sectarian religion. In the Old Testament, God was the God of the Israelites alone. They're the ones who had the right to survive, to dominate, and even massacre other peoples. Later on, Christians used the same testament, this Old Testament, in the same way, with the idea that they alone were chosen and beloved and the Lord's elect, and all others were infidels. Here you have the Christian's greatest mistake. Just as the sun shines for all men without discrimination, in the same way the Lord loves all his children. How can one get human beings to realize how ridiculous it is to win God over to their side? Look at what goes on when two countries go to war. And remember, there's war now, so it's so relevant to our time. With pomp and ceremony, the priests bless their respective armies and weaponry, imploring God to give them victory and wipe out their enemies. They even tried to gain his favors with offerings of hymns, prayers, incense. What a deplorable mentality. We must never try to bribe God. From an ordinary point of view, of course, all this is quite normal. Everyone tries to protect his own interests. But if you rise above this level to high level, you will see that just like the sun, God is absolutely impartial and even leaves people free to massacre each other, since that seems to be what they want to enjoy most. Most of the essential aspect of the solar philosophy is that it leads to a spirit of universality. We have to cease wanting one race or another, one people or another, one supreme religion or ideology to dominate the world. All men must advance towards this only universal religion, and this universal religion is the religion of love. Believe me, the Lord is like the sun. Different races, religions, and ideologies leave him completely indifferent. It simply does not bother him whether you are yellow, red, black, whether you are Jew, a Catholic, a Protestant, or even an atheist. You are all his children, and he cares only about qualities and virtues, our love, our wisdom, our honesty, and our generosity. Always keep this in mind, this image of the sun as the most perfect representative of the divinity. I love the Master's teaching. I love this philosophy. It's so simple, it's so easy, and yet so profound. In thy name and for thy glory, my Father in heaven, we shall live and we shall glorify your name. Amen.